Have you ever wondered if the thoughts inside your mind truly belong to you? Or if they're simply echoes shaped by a world that taught you what to think long before you knew it was happening? Modern life doesn't seize your identity with noise or force. It reshapes you quietly, slowly, through expectations you absorb without questioning. And because all of it feels normal, most people never notice the moment they drift away from who they really are. Your life stopped feeling like your own the moment the world decided who you needed to become. From childhood, labels were placed on you: good, bad, smart, lazy, gifted, unremarkable. You accepted them before you understood they weren't absolute truths. You were measured, ranked, compared, evaluated, not for who you were, but for how well you fit the mold. And somewhere in that process, the voice you think is yours became a collection of borrowed opinions and inherited fears. The internal guide you rely on was shaped long before you chose it. But where did this shaping begin? How did it grow so deep that you confuse it for your real self? Long before you felt controlled by rules or expectations, identity flowed freely. Your ancestors discovered themselves through lived experience, not through institutions that standardized personality. They learned from nature, from challenges, from stories passed through generations. They weren't mass-produced, they weren't ranked, they weren't conditioned to fit one model. Identity came from inside, not from external systems. But as civilizations expanded, control became valuable. Growing societies needed predictable citizens, obedient workers, loyal believers, people who followed structures without resisting them. Bit by bit, the world learned how to shape human beings with increasing precision. Schools, governments, traditions, and eventually technologies worked together to create identities that were easy to manage. Philosophers warned that people could be trained to believe they were free while living inside invisible boundaries. And over time, the shaping became so subtle that most never sensed it. But what does this look like today? How does modern society mold humans so effectively that they think it's all their own choosing? Today's world builds identities with frightening accuracy. You grow up inside systems designed to reward compliance and suppress originality. You're encouraged to silence instincts, follow rules, and avoid disrupting the order around you. The shaping doesn't stop as you age, it simply evolves. Advertisers tell you what to want, influencers tell you what to admire, culture tells you what success looks like, media tells you what to fear, technology tells you what to pay attention to. You're not choosing the identity you live with, you're selecting from a narrow set of identities prepared for you. And this is why so many adults eventually feel lost or hollow. They check every socially approved box: career, family, milestones, yet something feels missing. They followed every step, but none of it brought them closer to themselves. The world can give you an identity, but it can't give you meaning. And yet, the shaping continues, because modern society has a tool more powerful than anything before it. Your phone doesn't simply watch you, it studies you. Algorithms don't just observe your choices, they influence them. Every click and every second of attention becomes data used to mold a version of you that's profitable and predictable. Your fears are amplified, your desires distorted, your insecurities monetized. Little by little, you begin thinking in patterns designed for engagement, not truth. Opinions you believe you formed independently are often crafted by unseen hands. Beliefs you defend passionately might have been planted. Comparisons that drain you are engineered. The self becomes blurred, replaced by a digital persona shaped by forces you rarely question. It's not just manipulation, it's identity architecture. And yet, even in this overwhelming design, something vital remains possible. You're not powerless. You're simply influenced more than you realize. Reclaiming your identity starts with recognizing the subtle places where you surrendered it. When you notice how much of your thinking comes from outside yourself, a shift begins. You start separating your true voice from the noise of the world. You begin questioning instead of absorbing. You pause before reacting. And for the first time in years, you catch a glimpse of someone familiar, the person you were before the world stepped in. That recognition is the first step towards freedom. But understanding the theft is only the beginning. The deeper question waits ahead.
How did society gain such control over you, and why did you never see it happening?
What if the lessons that shaped you the most were never the ones spoken directly, but the ones you absorbed quietly while believing you were simply moving through life? Influence doesn't always look like authority, and control doesn't always look like force. The world teaches you in ways you don't consciously recognize, shaping you with expectations embedded in daily routines. There's the obvious curriculum, and then there's the hidden one, the silent training that teaches you not to question too much, not to trust your instincts too deeply, not to step outside the group, and not to disrupt the structure around you. These unspoken lessons settle into your identity long before you can understand what they're doing, and because they arrive early, they begin to feel natural. Modern society doesn't reprogram you with drama or confrontation, it does it with repetition, shaping your thoughts until you can no longer tell where the world ends and you begin. But where does this pattern start? Who first decides who you should be? It begins in childhood, long before you're aware that identity can be shaped. Childhood is supposed to be a time of discovery, exploration, curiosity, and play, yet it becomes the first stage of identity training. You learn to chase approval instead of passion, to avoid mistakes rather than learn from them, to mute the parts of yourself that seem inconvenient to others. You begin to fear being wrong more than being uninspired. You begin to measure yourself through the reactions of those around you. Approval becomes a kind of safety, and you start to choose safety over authenticity. Without realizing it, you build a version of yourself designed to avoid punishment and seek praise. That version follows you into adulthood, long after the world that shaped it has changed. The person you had to be to survive childhood often becomes the person who limits your freedom later in life. And just as you start to form independent thoughts, society moves you into the next phase of shaping. School becomes the factory where identities are standardized. If school was meant to spark intelligence, why did it punish you for thinking differently? The system wasn't created to nurture passion or originality. It was designed to create predictability. Rows of desks, fixed schedules, strict rules, external rewards. Everything funnels you into a single mold. School praises obedience and discourages deviation. Memorization replaces curiosity. Correct answers replace difficult questions. Silence replaces expression. You're rewarded for fitting in and disciplined for stepping out of line. And over time, you learn that creativity is risky, imagination is distracting, and uniqueness is inconvenient. When you graduate, you don't just leave with an education, you leave with internalized instructions on how to exist in society. You learn your place. You learn that authority decides your worth, and because you were trained to trust the system more than yourself, you rarely challenge the beliefs it planted. But school is just the beginning. Once you exit those walls, the world discovers something else. Your confusion is profitable. The moment you step into adulthood, your identity becomes a marketplace. The world no longer shapes you only through rules, it shapes you through desire. Companies study your insecurities, your fears, your aspirations, and turn them into strategies. They don't simply sell products, they sell versions of yourself you're encouraged to chase. You're told which lifestyle is admirable, which body is desirable, which personality traits are rewarded, and which dreams are respectable. Instead of deciding who you want to be, you're offered pre-packaged identities, each tied to consumption. In a world obsessed with image, insecurity becomes a currency. Confidence is no longer encouraged, it's commodified. Society wants you striving, comparing, buying, and proving. A secure person is hard to influence, but an insecure one is easy to guide. And just when you think you know who you're supposed to be, another force arrives, one far more powerful than advertising or culture. Your digital identity becomes the new foundation of who you are. In a world where every moment can be shared, identity becomes performance. Instead of living your life, you begin curating it. Likes replace validation, metrics replace meaning, images replace authenticity. You start to measure yourself not by how you feel, but by how you're perceived. Algorithms observe your behavior, amplify your emotions, and feed you content that shapes your worldview. Slowly, your digital reflection becomes more real than your actual self.
The persona you present begins to overshadow the person you are. And before you realize it, the identity you inhabit isn't one you consciously built, it's one you assembled from expectations, comparisons, and invisible pressures. But this isn't the end of the story. If society can shape you, it means your identity is not fixed. It can be understood, it can be questioned, it can be reclaimed. And the moment you start seeing the forces that molded you, you gain the ability to step outside them. In the chapters ahead lies the deeper truth, what this conditioning has done to your mind, your confidence, your beliefs, and your sense of meaning, and what it takes to break free from its grip.
What if the most powerful influences in your life were never the ones you noticed, but the ones that slipped quietly into your mind and became part of how you think? Influence rarely announces itself. It doesn't always arrive as manipulation or pressure. The world shapes you through subtle reinforcement, through habits you adopt without questioning, through emotions stirred by repetition, through opinions that start sounding like your own because you've heard them so often. Modern life doesn't need to force you into becoming someone. It only needs to surround you with feedback loops that shape your beliefs slowly until they feel natural. Every time you silence yourself to avoid judgment, each moment you choose approval over authenticity, every habit you repeat without thinking, your brain rewires itself. Pathways strengthen, behaviors settle, thoughts become automatic. Influence becomes identity. And as that identity becomes familiar, you stop noticing the forces that built it. But the deeper question remains, what is the cost of this invisible conditioning? Self-doubt becomes the quiet engine that keeps you aligned with what society expects. Why is it so easy to distrust yourself, even when you do everything right? Because you were trained to. From childhood onward, mistakes were emphasized more than growth, correctness valued more than exploration. You learned to fear being wrong, not because you lacked intelligence, but because you were punished for deviation. You learned that your instincts were unreliable, that your ideas required permission, that your confidence needed validation. Self-doubt became the internal voice reminding you to stay small, to stay safe, to stay acceptable. Society benefits from this. People who question themselves are easier to direct. People who need approval are easier to influence. People who fear rejection are easier to control. This doubt doesn't grow naturally. It is planted, watered, and reinforced until it becomes part of how you define yourself. But self-doubt isn't the only thing shaped by invisible influence. What you believe about the world is shaped too. Consider how two people can live in the same reality, yet experience completely different worlds. Beliefs are not born from pure observation. They are constructed through exposure, repetition, emotion, and environment. Algorithms study your fears and feed you narratives that intensify them. News cycles present curated threats that push you towards certain opinions. Social groups normalize particular worldviews until disagreement feels dangerous. Over time, you stop evaluating ideas based on truth. You evaluate them based on identity. You defend beliefs not because they're logical, but because they feel like part of who you are. You reject ideas not because they're flawed, but because they threaten the structure that holds your identity together. This isn't coincidence, it's design. The more emotionally reactive you become, the more predictable you are. The more divided you feel from others, the more content you consume. And the more content you consume, the more conditioned you become. But beliefs are only one layer of the identity you've inherited. Beneath them lies something far more fragile, your sense of meaning. Have you ever felt like you're moving through life on autopilot, following a script that never felt like yours? That feeling isn't a failure. It's the natural result of living inside expectations that don't belong to you. Society teaches you what milestones matter, what achievements are respectable, what dreams are realistic, what success should look like. You start to measure your life through templates handed to you long before you considered alternatives. But meaning cannot be inherited, it cannot be downloaded, it cannot be manufactured by social approval. When you chase goals that don't arise from your authentic self, they leave behind a dull emptiness.
People feel exhausted even when they haven't done much, lonely even when surrounded by others, ashamed for not meeting standards they never chose. It's not that life lacks meaning, it's that your inner world has been drowned out by the expectations of others, and the emotional cost continues to deepen. Because the final layer of control is your attention. What if your most valuable resource isn't time or money, but the direction of your focus? Every platform, every headline, every notification competes for your attention, not to inform you, but to shape you. Where your attention goes, your thoughts follow. Where your thoughts go, your beliefs form. Where your beliefs form, your identity solidifies. If society can control your attention, it can guide your reactions, limit your questions, and keep you too distracted to notice the ways it influences you. A distracted mind doesn't reflect, it doesn't question, it doesn't reconnect with its intuition. It simply drifts along the currents created for it. And when your attention is fragmented, your identity becomes fragmented too. But the story doesn't end here. Once you understand how deeply your mind has been shaped, you gain the power to uncover the emotional consequences and eventually to break free from the systems that created them.
Have you ever felt alone even when people surrounded you, as if something inside you remained unseen and untouched? This is the kind of loneliness that doesn't come from isolation, but from being disconnected from your own identity. Everything on the outside may look normal. You talk, you share, you interact, but deep inside, there's a quiet sense that no one truly knows you. Not because they ignore you, but because the version you present to them isn't the real one. It's the persona you've learned to wear, the shape you molded yourself into to meet expectations. When your true self hides, loneliness grows, not from the absence of others, but from the absence of authenticity. And this creates a silent ache, feeling misunderstood without knowing how to explain it, feeling distant even in close relationships, feeling exhausted by the performance of being who the world expects. You become lonely not because you lack people, but because you lack yourself. And this emotional fracture leads directly into another cost of losing your identity, the collapse of your sense of worth. Why does it feel like no matter how hard you try, you're never enough? Why does success feel temporary and insecurity feel permanent? Because society teaches you to measure your worth through metrics you don't control. You're taught that your value depends on how productive you are, how attractive you seem, how high you score, how much attention you receive, or how well you meet standards that shift constantly. These metrics are external, unstable, and often impossible to satisfy. You internalize them without realizing it, letting them become the lens through which you evaluate yourself. One setback suddenly feels like a defining flaw. One failure becomes a reflection of inadequacy. One comparison can make you question everything. Your self-worth is built on fragile ground because it's not built on truth, it's built on approval. And when your identity depends on being validated, you never feel secure. But the erosion of worth doesn't stop there. It spills into something deeper, your desires themselves. How many of your dreams are truly your own? How many are simply reflections of what you've been told to want? Society shapes not only who you think you are, but also what you think you should pursue. You begin to desire what others admire, value what others praise, and chase dreams designed to fit the narrative of a successful life. You go after careers that impress, lifestyles that signal status, or milestones that earn validation. Yet deep inside, something feels off. You may achieve these goals, but fulfillment never arrives. Motivation fades not because you're lazy, but because your soul cannot chase what it does not authentically desire. When your dreams come from imitation instead of intuition, they cannot satisfy you. You end up climbing ladders leaning against the wrong walls, wondering why reaching the top still feels empty. And this misalignment doesn't just distort your personal journey, it transforms your relationships as well. If the world only sees the version of you that performs, can you ever truly experience love? Relationships built on personas may look stable, but they lack depth.
People fall in love with your image, not your essence. They admire the mask you wear, not the truth you hide. Two individuals enter relationships, each carrying a version of themselves shaped by expectations rather than authenticity. Conversations feel shallow, emotional distance becomes familiar, connection becomes something acted out rather than lived. You fear revealing too much because authenticity risks rejection, and rejection threatens the fragile identity you're trying to maintain. Most people don't fear losing others, they fear exposing themselves. They fear that if someone sees the real them, the illusion of acceptance will collapse. But the deepest cost of all lies under the surface, in a place rarely discussed, the disappearance of your inner voice. When was the last time you heard your own thoughts without the world drowning them out? Your inner voice is the guide meant to steer your life, offering intuition, clarity, warnings, truth. But when your identity becomes shaped externally, that voice grows faint. You begin to rely on rules instead of instincts, expectations instead of desires, and noise instead of reflection. Eventually, you forget how to distinguish your thoughts from the thoughts shaped by others. You agree to things you don't genuinely want, follow paths that don't align with you, say yes when you mean no, and say nothing when everything inside you begs to speak. You drift not because you lack direction, but because your internal compass has been silenced. This is the most painful consequence of losing your identity, not confusion or loneliness, but the quiet disappearance of the self. Yet even here, at the deepest point of disconnection, a possibility remains. If identity can be shaped, it can be reclaimed. If your inner voice has been quieted, it can be revived. The next chapter reveals how you begin returning to yourself, piece by piece, truth by truth, choice by choice.
What if the version of you shaped by society isn't the person you were ever meant to become? Every transformation begins with the moment you finally see the pieces of your identity that never belonged to you. Awakening doesn't happen loudly. It arrives quietly, often in moments when you step outside your routine and realize how much of your life has been lived on autopilot. You start asking questions you never thought to ask before. Why do I want this? Who taught me to value this? Are these beliefs truly mine? What if the life I've been living doesn't fit the person I really am? This awakening is unsettling, sometimes even painful, because it forces you to confront the illusions you relied on, but it is also liberating. Through that small opening of awareness, you finally glimpse the version of yourself that existed before the world stepped in. Awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the self you abandoned to survive your environment. Yet awareness alone isn't enough. Once you see the truth, you must start peeling away what never belonged to you. To reclaim your identity, you must unlearn the person you were trained to be. Deconstruction is not rebellion, it's clarity. You begin to question the beliefs that once felt permanent. You ask yourself whether your values come from conviction or conditioning. You look at your desires and ask whether they are authentic or simply routes to approval. You examine your fears and determine which ones protect you and which ones were implanted to keep you compliant. You observe your habits and notice how many of them were formed by convenience or expectation rather than choice. This process isn't destructive, it's cleansing. It removes the layers of identity that were built for safety, not truth. And as each layer falls away, space opens up. Space for intuition, space for curiosity, space for the quiet voice within you that has been waiting to speak again. But once the false layers fade, a new question emerges. Who do you want to become if the world is no longer choosing for you? Reconstruction is where freedom begins. It's not about crafting a polished or impressive version of yourself. It's about building a truthful one. You start by following your curiosity rather than consensus, because curiosity is the truest signal of your authentic self. You pursue goals that energize you, not goals designed to impress others. You learn to speak with your own voice, not the voice shaped by fear or the need for approval. You choose beliefs consciously, letting go of those that no longer reflect your lived experience. You design your environment intentionally, surrounding yourself with people and habits that nurture your truth rather than dilute it. Reconstruction isn't a sudden shift, it's a lifelong unfolding. It's the steady return to a self that feels grounded, present, and whole. But there is still a crucial part of reclamation left, taking back the one thing society uses most to control you: your attention. Your identity flows wherever your attention goes. Whoever captures your attention captures your direction. To reclaim yourself, you must reclaim the focus that has been scattered by noise, distraction, and emotional manipulation. You begin by creating moments of silence, allowing your mind to breathe without stimulation. In that quiet, your inner voice begins returning. You stop feeding algorithms your emotions and choose more intentionally what you expose your mind to. You strengthen your ability to focus, not because it's productive, but because it reconnects you to your own depths. You practice digital minimalism not as a trend, but as a way to protect your mental landscape from being shaped by forces that don't care about you. And most importantly, you replace automatic reactions with reflection. You learn to pause. You learn to see your triggers. You learn to understand your choices instead of surrendering to them. Attention is sovereignty. When you take it back, you take control of your thoughts, your beliefs, your behavior, and eventually, your identity. Your life becomes yours again when you stop living it for others. This final step isn't about awareness or analysis, it's about embodiment. When you live as yourself, you stop performing for approval. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop fearing rejection. You stop chasing identities that were imposed on you. You begin making choices that align with your intuition rather than the pressure of expectations. You build relationships that nourish your authentic self rather than the persona you once projected. You pursue goals that resonate with your inner world instead of the world around you. And as this transformation unfolds, something powerful happens. You become unpredictable to the forces that once shaped you. Authentic people cannot be controlled. Their worth cannot be measured. Their desires cannot be manipulated. Their identity cannot be owned. This is personal sovereignty, the quiet strength of a person who finally knows who they are. Your identity may have drifted far from you, but it isn't lost. It waits for you to return. Piece by piece, choice by choice, truth by truth, you reclaim yourself. And in the end, you don't just find your identity, you come home to it.